For the first time in many days, events in Syria aren't momentous enough to warrant a dedicated section in the summary. Here's a one-line update on some developments. The new government under Hayat Tahrir al-Sham (HTS) held a working meeting with former ministers of the Assad regime. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken promised a recognition of the new Syrian authorities if they prove inclusive and avoid turning the country into a stronghold of international terrorism. The statement comes amid White House discussion around removing HTS from the terrorist organization list. Reports of extrajudicial executions of former regime supporters have surfaced, some corroborated by videos. The new authorities have vowed to investigate and punish the culprits. Clashes continue between the Turkish-backed Syrian National Army (SNA) and the Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF), with Arab faction within the SDF defecting to the SNA. Israel has concluded its demilitarization operation in Syria, destroying the former Syrian Arab Army's Air Force, Navy and long-range weapons. A ground operation to expand the buffer zone will continue. These events are undoubtedly intriguing, and I hope to discuss them in a separate video. Meanwhile, the fate of Russian bases and garrisons, which naturally interest us the most, remains uncertain. I will keep you updated on any developments in this regard. Russian President Vladimir Putin stated during a Human Rights Council meeting that the need for nuclear weapons has significantly diminished with the advent of the Oreshnik missile. According to him, these new weapon systems are powerful enough to replace nuclear capabilities for defensive tasks. Putin emphasized that the key focus should now shift to the development of the Oreshnik rather than refining nuclear doctrines. At this CSTO summit in November, he noted that strikes with a few such missiles could be as destructive as nuclear weapons, but without the risk of radioactive contamination. This behavior might have two explanations. Either Putin genuinely believes the Oreshnik hype, or fears nuclear escalation and is shifting rhetoric towards using supposedly super-powerful conventional weapons. Either way, it's larger and conversation with himself since, as we've discussed many times, threats involving either the Oreshnik or nuclear missiles haven't significantly intimidated Ukraine or the West. Russia continues killing Ukrainian civilians without needing Oreshnik. Data on strikes from December 10 complied by the Insider includes shelling in Kherson Oblast killed 1 person and injured 7 according to local military administration. Head Alexander Prohudin. Recently, Financial Times wrote that Kherson has effectively become a training ground for Russian drone operators targeting civilians. Rocket strikes in Zlatopol, Kharkov Oblast injured at least 11 people. A missile strike on Zaporozhye destroyed a private clinic, killing 4 and injured 20, according to military administration head Ivan Fedorov. News reminiscence of 2022 in the occupied city of Yenakiieve, likely using HIMARS, an ammunition depot was hit. Explosions were reported in the temporarily occupied city of Yenakiieve in Donetsk Oblast. Social media posts from eyewitnesses claim that Ukrainian forces struck a Russian ammunition depot. Detonation at the depot continues, as evidenced by video shared by locals. Authorities announced that the evacuation of residents in the area due to the risk of debris from detonation munitions. Residents of nearby districts have been urged to stay away from windows due to potential dangers of follow-up strikes. Local public groups suggest that target was a Russian army ammunition depot located in residential area near a military training ground. Eyewitnesses speculate that the depot contained a significant quantity of various munitions, suggesting that explosions may continue for some time. Social media also indicate that the strike was carried out with multiple high-pressure rockets from the American HIMARS system, resulting in powerful explosion with destructive consequences. However, this information has yet to be officially confirmed. As we can see, Russian logistics, despite years of HIMARS attacks, still struggles to adapt, as large ammunition depots close to the front line remain vulnerable. While the strikes are less frequent than 2 years ago, each destroyed depot reduces the pressure exerted by Russian forces on the front line, critical given the ongoing intensity of battles on many fronts. The Northern Wine Channel, associated with Russian forces operating in the Kursk region, report the liberation of Novoivanovka without any corroborating evidence. In fierce battle, the enemy lost over 1,200 personnel while attempting to hold the captured settlements, claimed the channel's authors. Meanwhile, Deep State does not confirm the loss of Plokhovo, which pro-Russian Z channels had loudly announced just a day earlier. Instead, the project mentioned only Russian advances in the area. What remains consistent in the Kursk region is the destruction of Russian military convoys. The 225 Separate Assault Battalion posts new video footage showing the aftermath. Result of the morning assaults by Russians. Russians continue attempts to breach our defenses. As you can see, they traditionally advanced in the orderly column of armored vehicles. Cleanup of their remaining infantry is underway, says 225 Brigade in their Telegram channel. So now go to Kurakhova. A Russian war correspondent Sladkov posts footage of a Russian flag raised at the grain elevator in Kurakhova. It remains unclear whether Russian forces have managed to establish control there, but both sides confirm Russian advances in the town. Additionally, Russian forces are attempting to assault Konstantinopolsk south of Kurakhova. Videos of a mechanized assault replied by the 505 Separate Marine Battalion were geolocated by the Z channel Slivka Caprice. Evidently, this marks another attempt to cut off the Kurakhova pocket and encircle remains Ukrainian force. Despite everything, fighting continues in the shrinking pocket. The 214 OP-4 battalion released video footage of one of its tanks in action, geolocated by Deep State, to the village of Romanovka. Complete annihilation. A single tank from the 214th Separate OP-4 Special Battalion wiped out a whole group of Russian entrenched in buildings along an entire street in one of the settlements near the Kurakhova front. Russians dead. Our safe and well. Such operations require careful planning, including EV, aerial reconnaissance, artillery preparation, fire cover groups, and other action to preserve the lives of our soldiers. Also, we just love smashing Russian with tank shoots. Kurakhova direction. Well, keep working. Ukrainian brigade said. So now move to Pokrovsk. Ukrainian channels continue to discuss the dire situation on the Pokrovsk front. Deep State lists numerous villages where Russian advances have been recorded near Novolenivka, Voznesenska, Horodovka, Vydrozhenia, Petrivka, Novotroitsk, and Shevchenko. Project authors urge action to save Pokrovsk from the Ukrainian Operational Tactical Group Donetsk commander. Volunteer Sergei Sternenko elaborates on the deterioration situation on the Pokrovsk front. The situation is rapidly worsening. The enemy is much closer to the city than the publicity available estimate of 3 kilometers. Talking to units from there, I've learned that the same issues persist since summer. False reports sent up the chain. Troops sent to position already captured by the enemy under the pretense they're still ours. Units decimated in counterattacks instead of strengthening defense lines. Commanders failing task being rewarded while those holding the line under extreme condition are punished. The fall of Shevchenko south of the city opens dire prospects, according to Ukrainian military personnel. A Telegram channel officer writes, after the occupation of Shevchenko, an enemy breakthrough toward the Pavlograd-Pokrovsk highway is possible, aiming to flank the city. Poor weather conditions have temporarily paused Russian assaults today, but intercepted communications suggest plan to resume movements either north or northwest of Shevchenko. Ukrainian soldier Stanislav Bunatov explains, everyone has resigned themselves to the Russian taking Pokrovsk, but few grasp the ramification for Dnipro's defense. Dnipropetrovsk Oblast is less fortified and its village compared to Donetsk, meaning faster Russian advances. For those dreaming of negotiation, remember, once Russia entered Dnipropetrovsk region, they'll dedicate full annexation. Dnipropetrovsk Oblast is not as well prepared for defense as one would hope. Ukrainian military personnel have previously highlighted problems with fortification in the region, and now Financial Times has shed additional light on the issue. Over the past year, Dnipropetrovsk Oblast spent $7 million on strengthening defense position, but the result remained extremely modest. In some sections of the front, second and third lines of defense are entirely absent, leaving the region vulnerable. Military engineers are overwhelmed, and in many cases, construction responsibilities fall on infantry units, which are forced to build positions themselves. If military engineers weren't being sent on assault missions and were allowed to focus on fortifying positions, the situation would be significantly better, said Stanislav Bunyatov, commander of an airborne assault battalion. The primary direction of Russian offensive currently runs through Kurakhova, Velikaya Novoselka, and the logistical hub of Pokrovsk, from where three major highways lead into Dnipropetrovsk Oblast and the city of Dnipro itself. What's happening in Torres remains unclear. The chaos stems from erratic Russian offensive and breakthroughs in the city. Here's how Deep State described it. It's impossible to say which part of Donetsk are controlled by Ukrainian forces and which by the Russian army, said Bobovnyaka, spokesman for Ukrainian's operation group Lugansk. In the city, intense close contact battles rage for every house, even every room within houses. The enemy has observation posts behind our lines and we have ours behind theirs. Russian forces reportedly have gained ground along central streets, including Druzhby and Vasily Stas. Heavy fighting continues, particularly in the Zabalka neighborhood on the southern edge of Torsk, where Russian infantry seeks to entrench for further advances. Ukrainian communication, electronic warfare (EV) and UAV specialist Sergei Flash Beskresnov shared a video showing a Ukrainian FPV drone taking down its Russian counterpart. Remarkably, the Russian drone was tethered with fiber optics, making it impervious to EV, and could only be destroyed this way or with a shotgun, as thought to soldier in Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade. The Ukrainian armed force clearly understand the importance of new technologies. At the world's first official drone forces continue to expand. 2 units recently announced significant upgrades. The K2 mechanized battalion has been transformed into the 20th separate drone system regiment. The famed Tachimadara regiment has expanded to become the 414th separate brigade of strike UAV systems, Obrubas, a unique unit of its kind. In Syria, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham has similar Shahin brigades responsible for drones. However, in Syria, the term brigade can refer to units of vastly different size and compositions. Both Ukrainian units announced new recruitment campaigns. Despite these advances, new challenges may emerge. Chinese manufacturers are reportedly reducing export of K-drone components to Europe and the United States, according to Bloomberg. Manufacturers of drone engine, batteries, and flight controls have limited or entirely ceased deliveries. Ukrainian drones heavily rely on Chinese parts, meaning production of inexpensive, effective weapons critical to the war could suffer. This issue traces back to Washington's restriction on selling China high-bandwidth memory chips and advanced semiconductor equipment. In retaliation, Beijing banned sales of dual-use goods and several high-tech materials to U.S. military contractors, including those working with Ukraine. For instance, a few days ago, China blacklisted U.S. startup Child AI Inc., which produces AI-powered drones for the Pentagon and works extensively in Ukraine. China has threatened broader export restrictions on drones components by 2025. Already from September 1st of 2024, China has prohibited export of drones capable of military use, along with the related components like infrared night vision devices, target lasers, and rangefinders. Previously, Bloomberg reported on joint Russian-Chinese development of strike drones resembling Iranian Shahed UAVs. This information was later confirmed by the Kremlin. China's duplicity is nothing new. Ukrainian manufacturer will need to find alternative supply routes for Chinese drone parts through third countries, a strategy that underpins much of Russian high-tech military industry. This is a game two can play. Mass conscription raids continue in Moscow. Recruits are coerced into signing contracts through deception of threats of deployment to the Kursk region, with those refusing often being zeroed out. One such incident involved 24-year-old Vladimir Kim, a higher school of economics student on academic leave. On December 8, he was detained in the Moscow metro and taken to a recruitment center on Ugrevska Street, where parents of other detained individuals had been searching for their children. Kim's mother, Irina Hegai, shared her story with Astra. They detained my son despite his documented health issues like a digital nasal septum that causes frequent bleeding and breathing problems. How can they expect patriotism when young men are treated like this? I trusted the authorities to conduct proper medical exams, but they deemed him fit. By December 9, detainees from the Ugrevska center were transferred to other conscription points. Kim's family was informed he would be sent directly to military units. We're not draft doggers. I wasn't against my son serving, but when I brought up his health, I was told, "You're going to the army and that's that. Hell march until he collapses." I couldn't say anything. The quality of new volunteers has visibly deteriorated. A Russian soldier complained about the state of recent recruits. Back in 2023, they sent us healthy soldiers. Now, most are older with numerous health issues. For example, one of my comrades born in 1965 was sent to the front 2 weeks after signing a contract. He's too old to fight and can barely walk. In addition to the poor quality of recruits, Russian soldiers face severe supply shortages. Dmitry Ippolitov, a soldier, described the dire condition on the front. We can't count on government support for equipment or medical supplies. When one of our comrades was wounded, all I had was a tourniquet and bandage. He died because I couldn't provide proper care before evacuation. Soldiers have to build their own shelters and heat them with homemade stoves. One soldier, Renaud Gizatulin, who lost an arm in combat, pleaded for help evacuating from the front. I've been on the front line for 6 months with an amputated arm. Please help me get out and tend to my health. During Russia partial mobilization, activists warned about the disproportionate impact on small ethnic minorities. This is now evident in the case of Ivan Taymagir, one of the last members of the Karek people killed in the war near Kursk. A social media post mourning his death. This is an irreplaceable loss for Russia cultural heritage. On September 13, 2024, Ivan Taymagir, aged 56, perished in combat. His death not only marks a personal tragedy, but also the end of his people's history. The Karek people, a Paleo-Asiatic ethnic group, numbered only 23 individuals in the 2021 census. Of those, just 4 spoke the Karek language. Men leaving for war is also crippling cities. In Chita, 16 trolleybus drivers joined the military, helping public transport operation, reports Chita.ru. Similar issues plague Irkutsk, where at least 15 drivers have left. In July, the mayor of Novokuznetsk proposed creating a women's battalion of drivers. Girls used to drive trolleybus in my yard, said ex-general and member of parliament Andrei Gurulov, and now the vehicles are much more comfortable, said him. So it's all for today. Thank you for views, and you can push the like button and subscribe on the channel. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.